From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I'm Carla Gonzalez, and this is From the South. With the World Cup in Russia set to begin, the host or hosts of the 2026 World Cup have been announced. FIFA revealed a joint bid by the United States, Canada and Mexico that has won the right to host the world's biggest sporting event in soccer. They beat out Morocco by a wide margin, 134 votes to 65 for the win. It comes at a time when the United States is at apolitical odds with their neighbors to both the north and south. And despite his recent feuds with Canada and Mexico, US President Donald Trump seemed excited by the news. Trump tweeted, "Congratulations, the US together with Mexico and Canada just got the World Cup. A great deal of hard work." Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto also reacted, saying Mexico is ready to host the World Cup again, after hosting it in 1970 and 1986.
Mexico will make history for being the first country to organize 3 World Cups. FIFA's decision is a recognition of the 3 countries, and of course, a vote of confidence in the ability of our organization, the quality of the infrastructure and the services that Mexico has to offer.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau also tweeted about the news. He said, "Congratulations to everyone who worked hard on this bid. It's going to be a great tournament." As Russian President Vladimir Putin welcomes the world to his country for the World Cup, he's thanking FIFA for keeping politics out of the sport. Putin spoke during a FIFA Congress in Moscow while standing next to the World Cup trophy. He stressed that Russia is ready to host the World Cup and ensured that all people who come will have the finest amenities and the, quote, best positive attitudes. There have been issues raised about the safety of LGBTI fans coming to the World Cup, given Russia's anti-LGBTI laws.
The 68th FIFA Congress has gathered delegates of all 211 national football associations, as well as 6 continental confederations. This is the crème de la crème of global football. I would like to highlight the loyalty of FIFA to the sport is beyond politics principle. Russia has always been committed to that and strives to have closer ties with all those who are committed to developing and strengthening the creative principle of sport.
And don't miss our exclusive show, De la Mano del 10, the World Cup according to Maradona, only on Telesur English at 22 hours Eastern Caribbean time, every night throughout the World Cup. It starts tonight. Let's go to another story. Bolivian President Evo Morales is in Russia, but not for the World Cup. It's the first leg of an international trip, which will also take him to China. Morales will hold bilateral meetings with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Wednesday and Thursday. The meeting aims at deepening their relationship. There are also agreements which are expected to be signed. The Bolivian Minister of Foreign Affairs says over the weekend, Morales will meet with the Bolivian legal team in The Hague to discuss the progress of the border dispute with Chile at the International Court of Justice. He is expected to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping on June 19 and 20 in Beijing. Our correspondent in Moscow, Hansel Oro, has more on this story.
Recordemos de que en esta visita que hace
President Evo Morales has arrived in Russia, accompanied by the Hydrocarbon Minister Luis Sanchez and Minister of Foreign Affairs Fernando Guanacuni. This trip will strengthen bilateral ties between the 2 countries. Evo Morales has already met with President Vladimir Putin at the Kremlin. There, they will sign a 9-page accord. In the afternoon, Evo Morales will attend a seminar where he will be also speaking about the bilateral meeting. Tomorrow, the country will sign an agreement between Russia's gas company, Gazprom, and Bolivia's YPFB. These agreements are valued in $1 million and want to reduce the trade deficit. Evo Morales' visit will last for 2 days. On Friday 15, Morales will head to The Hague to discuss progress of the border dispute with Chile at the ICJ. This sums up Morales' agenda in Russia, that, in spite of the political campaign against him, affirming that he was traveling to Russia for the World Cup. But as you have seen, this is an official visit that will not only take place in Russia, but also in China, where he will meet President Xi Jinping. Back to you.
Cancel Oro from Moscow. The campaign by opposition groups in Nicaragua to remove President Daniel Ortega continues with a call for a 24-hour national strike on Thursday. Businessmen, students, and other groups say they want this strike to contribute to a peaceful solution to the political crisis in the country. They also say they want to resume a national dialogue, which the government is already committed to. Several workers' unions are opposing the stoppage. The strike call comes as violence by some opposition groups against Sandinista activists and the police killed at least 3 people on Tuesday. The worst affected area was Jinotepe, where armed opposition supporters ransacked a teaching hospital and kidnapped students. A civilian was also shot dead in Managua as he helped the police remove debris blocking the road. Our correspondent in Managua, María José Díaz, has more.
Violence continues in Nicaragua. On Tuesday, the police gave the report on a number of kidnappings and other criminal acts carried out by violent groups in different parts of the country. Groups that are using firearms, mortars, and Molotov cocktails, putting ordinary citizens in danger and spreading alarm among the communities. The police and civilians began on Monday to remove some of the roadblocks set up by these groups in the capital and around the country, although many of these are still in place. Some trade unions came out to say they would continue working to defend their jobs. They say that if the roadblocks continue, some 50,000 jobs could be lost. In spite of that, the National Alliance of Democratization called a 24-hour national strike for Thursday. For her part, Nicaragua's Vice President Rosario Murillo said in a message on Tuesday that the country's biggest enemy was hate and violence, and that everyone has to try to build harmony and peace.
That was María José Díaz from Managua. The victims of the eruption of the Fuego volcano in Guatemala now lack drinking water and adequate food. Diseases are already reported in one of the shelters. We have more in this report.
The situation of hundreds of victims in the shelters of Escuintla is getting worse. The lack of food and water is exacerbated by the overcrowding. The humanitarian aid has been helpful, but residents, especially the elderly, are concerned about the food they receive.
We need, for example, tortillas, beans, some kind of herb, because we really are eating too much fat, and this is not our kind of meals.
This is also the condition for many young people. Their mothers say they are worried about their children's health. In the shelters, food is not specifically tailored for age groups, and there are a lot of babies.
Because they're not drinking milk from a bottle. There are a lot of sick children, and the ashes from the volcano brought more diseases.
Under these conditions, living in the shelters is beginning to weigh heavily on the survivors. They don't know how long they will remain in this situation.
It is a roof where we can stay. We are scared to go back because of the diseases, and we are also afraid of not finding anything.
For now, there's no reconstruction plan by the government to address the demand for housing for the thousands of victims that have lost everything. Days go by, and with them, the uncertainty of the future. Once again, tragedy has struck the most vulnerable.
The emergency at the Hidroituango Dam in Colombia continues. Families have remained away from their homes for a month and are at risk of a possible collapse of the dam.
Communities affected by the Hidroituango Dam traveled to Bogotá to demand truth, justice, and reparations from the state.
We came all this way because even though government officials have come to our lands, they have never met with us. We feel abandoned. They are ignoring those affected by this.
Communities feel that they've been left behind by the state and suspect that the Office of Public Services has been hiding information.
The information being released by the public services only hides the truth. We believe that if the dam were to fall, the risk will be much higher than they anticipate. We need them to drain the water, because while they say there's only been one collapse, we have counted 15.
Beyond a humanitarian tragedy, this case has become a political issue for social leaders.
We have been live from the start. The engineers didn't know this could happen, and now they have us huddled under tents. This is a big disaster, and we don't know what will happen next. They're all terrified to return to the site.
Besides the lack of information, there are also issues with what's happening at the shelters.
Those of us upstream have yet to receive any aid. No food, no hygienic products, no diapers, not even shelters. Downstream, we know the food has been precarious. Sometimes it's rotten, and that's when they get any food.
Legal measures are being prepared in the face of government inaction.
We have asked the dam's environmental license to be overturned, and yet the Council of State has denied cautionary measures. We will continue to make our demands to protect the affected communities.
Another issue raised by locals is the pressure being exerted on them to stop talking to media representatives who travel to their communities. Communities are asking that the government dismantle the dam so that inhabitants of the area can live in peace.
We'll take a short break now, but join us again after this video from our multimedia team. Welcome back. Colombia's presidential candidates have secured their political alliances 4 days ahead of the second round of elections. Our correspondent Tatiana Portela has more from Bogotá.
The second round of elections in Colombia will be held on June 17th. Presidential candidates Iván Duque and Gustavo Petro have already secured their political alliances. Iván Duque, the right-wing candidate of the Democratic Center Party, secured an alliance with politicians, including Congresswoman Clara Rojas of the Liberal Party and former presidential candidate Ingrid Betancourt. People on social media reacted to this candidacy by saying it's impossible for a person who was a victim of the armed conflict to support a presidential campaign aimed at revising the peace accords. Analysts say, in fact, that the peace agreements could be completely ruined, and this would not only question the legitimacy of the government, but would also lead to the sharpening of a new conflict in the country. On the other hand, Petro secured the political alliance for a pro-peace coalition. The Democratic Party and the Alianza Verde Party united in this presidential campaign. In the last few hours, presidential candidate Roy Barrera also joined the campaign. This alliance is important because, although not sought by Petro, it respects the accords between the government of Juan Manuel Santos and the FARC. This is why Barrera joined, because he believes this campaign will aim at achieving peace in Colombia and will work for the peace accords to be implemented.
Tatiana Portela from Bogotá. The head of the Colombian government delegation in talks with the National Liberation Army, ELN, Gustavo Bell, said they have a strong determination to achieve a peace agreement. Bell made this statement after it was announced that the dialogue between the two parties will be extended until June 15. He hopes to settle on a concrete agenda before this cycle of talks ends, so the next Colombian government can follow a clear path towards a peace agreement. At the same time, the ELN has announced a ceasefire to facilitate voter participation in the second round of the presidential election.
We hope that whoever wins will continue these efforts and will comply with the agreements with the government. This is what's best for Colombia. This ceasefire that the ELN has decreed to facilitate electoral participation on the 17th has been answered by the Uribismo candidate, Mr. Iván Duque, asking us for gestures of peace.
In Mexico, presidential candidates faced off in their third and final televised debate where they traded accusations of corruption. The candidates agreed that fighting corruption should be a priority for the country in order to stimulate the economy. Right-wing candidate Ricardo Anaya proposed a better control of the public budget, while leftist Andrés Manuel López Obrador insisted on the importance of strengthening the country's internal market to make Mexico self-sufficient. The country is holding general elections on July 1st. During electoral campaign in Mexico, cartoonists play an important role in expressing the people's opinions and criticisms.
Political cartoonists are considered true political and social critics. They practice journalism with humor through their drawings. They say that the electoral campaigns, dirty wars, and aggression against candidates give them plenty to work with for their cartoons.
This situation is a paradise for a cartoonist, but we are also citizens, so on the other hand, it's really concerning.
Every day, they make people laugh while reflecting on rife abuse of power, always taking care to use humor that makes the real issues accessible to the readers.
My job is to laugh at politicians, bankers, some businessmen, and everyone who's trying to fool us and lie to us. Not at the regular people.
In order to make political cartoons, it is necessary to be a good journalist. Their work often talks about corruption and bribing, so fact-checking is important.
Writing lies is useless. Humor needs to be about strong facts. That awakens the citizens' awareness. I think that if we motivate people to denounce corruption, then we're an important part of Mexico's journalism.
Cartoons have evolved over time, from newspapers to social networks. For this cartoonist, that's something positive.
In some way, we are helping democracy through media. We don't know how long it will last, but we know that it is important for society. What we've done has been very important in this electoral process.
Mexico has a long history of political cartoons, during which almost no candidate or president has been safe from critics.
Grupo HEP, a company supplying soda to soft drink company PepsiCo in the Mexican city of Altamirano, has closed down after allegedly being threatened by local gangs. According to the local media, the company gave in to the pressure of the gangsters' demand for protection money. The closure comes less than 3 months after PepsiCo's rival Coca-Cola shut down in the area. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro celebrated the proposal made by the National Electoral Council to call for the election of municipal councils in December. Maduro highlighted that this will be the 25th election since the start of the Bolivarian process. According to the president, Venezuela has held more elections than just about any country during the last 2 decades. Maduro held a meeting with United Socialist Party youth in which he defended young people's voice as a key tool for politics.
The CNE announced that they will call for election number 25, During these 19 years, we have achieved a world record in democratic participation. The CNE say that in December, the election of councillors in all the 335 municipalities of the country will take place. So let's get ready for this new election.
Cuban Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs Rogelio Sierra Díaz is in Guyana as part of his tour of the Caribbean. Sierra Díaz met with the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Ambassador Audrey Jardine Waddell. As part of his visit, he also met with Cuban doctors and teachers living in Guyana, where he praised their work in the country. People took to the streets in Peru for a third consecutive day to protest fuel price hikes. Our correspondent Jaime Herrera has more from Lima.
Yesterday, a third journey of protest took place against Congress and the economic measures taken by the government of Martín Vizcarra. And demonstrations ended up with several young protesters arrested and others who tried to walk all the way to the Congress building. The police blocked one of the main avenues of Lima to avoid the demonstrations moving forward. Some of the protesters are still detained in the police headquarters. People are demonstrating against a Congress they say does not represent them, and several denounced that corruption is not being investigated or even sanctioned. People are also protesting against the economic measures and the fuel price hikes. People took to the streets in other cities of Peru as well as 6 regions in the south and have announced a general strike in July to protest against Congress and the economic measures taken by the government.
Jaime Herrera from Lima. Congressmen in Argentina are voting on a bill which could legalize abortion in a session that could go on for 20 hours. The historic bill will allow women to terminate a pregnancy in the first 14 weeks. Feminist groups are expected to protest under the banner "Not One Less" with their trademark green handkerchiefs in support of their abortion rights. 16 lawmakers haven't decided on their vote yet, although 121 have said they will vote against and 118 in favor. The bill emphasizes the danger Argentinian women face in seeking clandestine abortions, particularly poor women. About a third of maternal deaths in the country are related to such procedures, according to the bill. In Grenada, the government is ready to open its new parliament building. Government officials announced the new building will open on June 21st. They're inviting the public and leaders from around the Caribbean to witness the event. There was a slight delay with the opening due to a setback in procuring critical electronic equipment from a contracted supplier. The May 21 date coincides with exactly 100 days since Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell was re-elected. We'll take one last short break, but join us after this video from our multimedia team.
It is now, I think, widely known inside the country and outside of the country that first of all, the Americans intervened along with the British to abort the democratic process from 1953 onwards, and secondly, that once the present government got into power, it extended the scale of electoral fraud so that we cannot claim at the present time to be a politically enfranchised people. There's the whole area of the media, the newspapers and the radio. We find that since the government has taken over the paper, it has ostensibly nationalized these newspapers, meaning in the interest of the nation, but in practice it is specifically in the interest of the ruling party.
Thanks for joining us again. A Saudi Arabian-led coalition has launched its biggest strike in Yemen to take control of the country's main port city, Hodeidah, from the Houthi rebels. bombings started after the Houthi bypassed a deadline to withdraw from the area. The city has been under their siege since 2015. The attacks have raised humanitarian concerns as the port is the route for 80% of relief and food aid to the country, which has been at war since 2011. The strikes are putting lives of around 600,000 Yemenis at risk of starvation. Here's a look at today's stories making headlines around the world.
The Bulgarian Prime Minister Boyko Borisov has expressed an interest in joint unmanned aerial vehicle production with Israel. In Jerusalem, Borisov said that he hoped all peace agreements are signed, but made no secret of his intention to partner with Israel to procure high-tech weapons. Israel has so far cooperated with India and Russia on unmanned aerial vehicles. Victims of the former Democratic Republic of Congo's Vice President Jean-Pierre Bemba have decreed his acquittal, with one man calling the ruling tragic. Bemba was convicted in 2016 of war of crimes and crimes against humanity when a militia he commanded committed mass murder and rape in Central African Republic. He was sentenced to 18 years in prison, but last Friday that conviction was overturned.
My daughter was raped as she tried to flee with me, but the Bemba's militia took her and raped her. I was horrified by it. I could go on about other crimes that were committed against my neighbors.
Greece and Macedonia have reached a deal to resolve a long-standing dispute over the former Yugoslav Republic's name, allowing Macedonia to apply for European Union membership, which had previously been blocked due to Greece's objection to the use of the name Macedonia. Under the deal, Macedonia will be called the Republic of Northern Macedonia.
And before we go, here's another reminder of a special World Cup program with Diego Armando Maradona. De la mano del 10, the World Cup, according to Maradona, will air only on Telesur every night throughout the World Cup. It starts tonight, so be sure to tune in. And with that, we come to the end of this news brief. For this and other stories, you can find them on our website at telesurtv.net/English. And be sure to also follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Carla Gonzalez. Thank you for watching.